What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Variant the Podcast. What's up, Tim?
Greetings
Merry
Merry Christmas,
Yes.
everybody.
Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho.
And we're dressed like it's summertime,
I know.
but it is.
We're in the studio. It's fine.
Yeah, but we are full on in the holidays.
Got a little Christmas hat on our little table here.
Santa has, well, no, he didn't join us. His hat did.
He's had it. He left it. He left it while he was leaving us presents.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays, everybody. Thanks for coming and joining us. We're
Yes.
going to have a little bit of Christmas fun, just like we did at Halloween. We are going to count
like we
down.
promised we were going to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
We did promise you guys. So we're here to count down our top 3 favorite Christmas comics and Christmas movies.
Which was hard.
It was very hard.
Comics were a little easier. Movies were hard.
I was stuck on both.
You were.
I had a hard time, but for 2 different reasons.
Comics were easier for me because I feel like I've probably only read like 6 Christmas stories that stuck with me comic-wise over the years, so it was easier to pick out the 3. But movies, there's a plethora, and we'll get into it later. But man, it was
very tough.
It was hard. It was hard. Very,
Very
very
tough.
hard. But anyway, we should start with comics like we did for the Halloween
definitely.
one, and then we'll move into movies.
That sounds like a good plan.
All right.
So you want to lead off, or you want me to lead off?
I'll lead off, and then because I think my lead is going to go into yours.
Okay.
I think they merge together.
Well, it probably does. It's better vice versa, I think.
You want to do that? Okay, then you go.
All right.
All right.
So my first, because we told each other which one is our number one. So my first, I'm going just like I did with the horror comics. I'm going off the rails.
You're going rogue again.
I'm going rogue for sure.
I'm just going to call you Rogue Tim.
That's right.
It's like, it's not a comic book, Tim. It's not a comic book.
Just call me Tim Rogue One Connolly. So mine is not a comic again.
Shocker.
It is but it's a piece of literature that has informed the majority of Christmas comics. I won't say the majority. Many of the Christmas comics that have come out over the years, along with numerous, probably the most adaptations of this particular story. And that's, of course, A Christmas Carol from Charles Dickens.
Iconic. All kinds of iconic.
It is the most well-known Christmas story ever written. There's a reason why they came out with a movie called The Man Who Invented Christmas about Charles Dickens writing this story. It's just loved by pretty much everybody across the board. It's been adapted a million different ways, it seems like. And this is a must read for me every single year. I read the original classic version of this every year. And if I don't get to read the whole thing, I'll read my favorite parts of it. I try to read the whole thing every year.
I want to imagine you do this in a robe with a pipe.
With an ascot.
Next to a fire.
Jacket.
Next to, next to
I do. And I read it out loud to no one. Just me by myself and Rover.
in your boxer briefs.
And I don't even have a dog. So there's that. But that's my number one. Had to be. I could not go without it.
I mean, it makes sense. It's like, besides even obviously it started as a book, but it became one of the most adapted Christmas story movie of all time. Yeah. Like, there's over like 30
I don't even know.
adaptations of that freaking story film wise.
I honestly think it would be difficult to count them.
That's true, because everyone has one. Like the Flintstone has it, some Muppets have it, freaking the Scrooge.
And you're not even that's not even including like plays, Broadway shows and stuff like that.
It is the definitive Christmas story.
Without any doubt.
For sure. Which I guess makes sense to kick it off. Even though it's not a comic, I'm a little bitter.
Charles was on to something. That's for sure.
So that's my pick, which is directly inspired by your first pick.
That's right.
Batman Noel, which is essentially Batman's version of A Christmas
As we
Carol.
said, everything has adapted this story.
And it's really cool because it follows Batman on a pursuit for the Joker on a snowy night, and then the story is narrated. So the narrator refers to Batman as Scrooge. So Scrooge is Batman in this scenario, and a chain of events happen where we get like this Batman's version of the Ghost of Christmas Past, Present, and Future, and he comes to a realization of things by the end of the story. But it's done really well. It's drawn beautifully by Lee Bermejo, and he wrote it as well. And I feel like this is probably the definitive like Christmas comic book. There's some other good ones. I have 2 others on my list, but I feel this is one of the most known. I don't know. I won't say the definitive, but it's definitely one of the most known.
I would say that is completely fair, even though it was written in 2013. I think that's really fair.
It's widely popular.
Really popular for a reason, though, because as you said, Bermejo's like art in this is, I mean, really, if you've never read this book, if you've never dived in, really gotten into Batman Noel, the art alone is worth the read. It's really, really beautiful.
His Batman design is great.
It's like, it reminded me a lot of Alex Ross's work to some degree.
It's got that realistic tone.
Edge. Yeah, it has some realism to it. Just beautifully told, both artistically and writing wise. It's definitely, it was on my list, and we both had it. So I changed mine to let that, because I already had Christmas Carol.
But it's a merger. So there you go. It's Batman mixed with a Christmas Carol. I mean, what more can you ask for as a comic book fan? That leads to your number 2, Tim. Your second pick.
So the rest of my list became incredibly difficult because, unlike Arris, I didn't grow up reading a lot of Christmas comics. I've seen them over the years. Right. So I really kind of dove into some of the ones that I've seen over the years and reread them, and then looked at some of the others that are out to kind of round out my list to refresh myself, because it really wasn't at the top of my reading every year. I'm more of a, when it comes to Christmas specifically, I kind of am more of a classic literature guy. Right. I do a lot of, that type of reading. But there's a couple of really good ones. One that I did read, I read a lot when I was a kid around Christmas time, because it was a classic, very fun, was Superman's Christmas Adventure from 1940. Right. So Superman,
I've never read that one, actually.
When I was growing up, classic Superman, they would still air the classic Superman cartoons in syndication and stuff.
The Fleischer stuff?
Yeah. So classic Superman was, even though it was like obviously way before my time, and I mean when I was little. I
had them on VHS, actually.
Yeah, no, so did we. And I loved that opening. Dun, 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 dun,
amazing.
It was just so fun, and it just had, even today, just has such a nostalgic ring for me, even though it's way before my time.
Well, the animation inspired Batman the Animated Series.
Yes, that's true. That's absolutely true. So in 1940, they released the Christmas Superman Christmas Adventure *1, where Superman literally helps Santa Claus save Christmas.
Of course he does.
Yeah, and it's like a super hokey story, but it's just, again, it's something that was just super fun from when I was a kid. Loved it. I reread it just recently, and I was like, that's just really, it's still just fun, and it's goofy. It's like one of those things that you would sit down and just read with your younger kids as a parent or something like that. So I had to add that one to my list as my number 2.
That's a really fun one. I never read that, so I'll probably have to check that one out, because I love the Fleischer Superman stuff.
That would probably be fun for you to read to your daughter.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because she would probably get a kick out of that. Because it's like it's like Santa with his elves fighting. You know what I mean? Like Meanie, and it's like it's really fun.
That's funny. Well, that kind of, again, kicks off my next one, because, as we just said, it inspired Batman the Animated Series, and my next one is the Batman Adventures Holiday Special, which was done by the great Paul Dini, and Bruce Timm actually did some of the art in the book as well.
You stayed really modern.
Huh?
You stayed really modern.
Well, that's kind of, that's kind of what I grew up with. I was in that 90s, early 2000s range when I was really reading these books and stuff like that, or younger. But anyway, we all know I'm a heavy Batman Animated Series fan, so clearly a Batman animated inspired comic book had to be on this list. But this book is so good, and it also got adapted into an episode for Batman, the New Adventures of Batman. Or is it the New Adventures of Batman? Batman, the New Adventures, the New Adventures of Batman. Sorry, I'm trying to do it. There's it's the New Adventures of Batman. Called Holiday Nights, that got an episode, and they adapt 3 of the stories that are in this comic book, and it's just so good, because you see there's one with Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy, where Ivy basically hypnotizes Bruce, and then her and Harley go on a Christmas shopping spree, and Bruce is trying to fight it the whole time during the holidays. We get one with Bullock, where he's Santa Claus at a mall, and then we see that Clayface is disguised as little kids, and he's running around stealing presents and watches from everyone during Christmas shopping, so Batgirl has to come out and stop him. And then we even get a New Year's Eve story at the very end, which is in the comic, and also the episode where Batman has to stop the Joker on Christmas Eve, and we see that him and Commissioner Gordon actually have a routine every year. They have coffee at the shop, and I believe a cheesesteak. At least Jim orders one to go, and just be like, another year in the bag. And they're like, yep, just kind of let's go into the next one. Gotham City's always got something, right? So it's just really cool. And the comic's really good. The episode is really good. And it's a classic. It's Batman Animated Series, Paul Dini, Bruce Timm. Love it.
No, that's a solid pick. That's a really solid pick. You know, anything from Paul Dini, you kind of can't go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And he did over the years between Batman the Animated Series and some of the comics with Batman, the New Adventures of Batman. He did several different Christmas themed episodes and comics.
Yeah,
and all of them are fun.
So good. I mean, he's one of my favorite Batman writers of all time.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's
like co-created Harley Quinn. He gave us the definitive Mr. Freeze origin, which there's actually, I believe because the episode Holiday Nights adapted 3 of the stories from this book, where I think there's 5 stories in the book. There's a Mr. Freeze story in here and another one that I don't remember off the top of my head, but they're all really great. I actually haven't read the actual book in a year or two, so I need to revisit it this year, but I watch the episode every year, which is phenomenal.
It is, and it's worthy of a watch. It's anything, like you said, Paul Dini has influenced so much of our generation's view of comics, Batman specifically, but also like Superman, you know, the animated series. And
For
so
sure.
on. So yeah, that's solid pick.
So what's your final comic
My
pick?
final pick, and this is another one that I remember reading when I was young and loving, was the Christmas with the Superheroes from 1988.
Okay.
It's 2-issue, but it's a collection of Christmas stories.
Right.
And, you know, this comic actually features Frank Miller's first writing of Batman.
Oh, really?
Yep. And
That's dope.
which is the Batman Wanted Santa Claus Dead or Alive story, where Batman actually is chasing this guy who's dressed as Santa Claus, and then, you know, he's actually aided by, basically the man himself.
Right.
So, but it's got a Teen Titans story in there that is another adaptation of Christmas Carol and Charles Dickens' work, but it's just a really solid collection. It's got The Man Who Murdered Santa Claus, which is a Justice League title. It's got a Superman story, which I kind of loved, Twas the Fright Before Christmas. So it's just got it's a great collection of stories that just make for a really fun read overall. And it's the Teen Titans one especially. It's kind of like the poppy 1960s version of a story, even though it was written in the late 80s.
You're giving me a lot of stuff too, because I haven't read that one either. So I gotta read.
Really?
That one. Yeah.
Well, there you go. I'm glad to spread the Yuletide cheer, everyone. But yeah, that's my number 3.
That's pretty good. Well, my third and final is going to be the Green Lantern Larfleeze Holiday Special.
Wow.
This is really fun. It's written by Jeff Johns.
It is written by
Jeff Johns.
You really stayed modern.
Dude, I feel like it's not my fault. Like a lot of the good comic Christmas stories are really good.
It's true.
And plus Jeff Johns, Paul Dini, like freaking Lieber Mayhew. Those are, I mean, the names say it all. Those are like icons in the comic industry. But anyway, this story deals with Larfleeze on Christmas Eve, basically making his Christmas list, a huge Christmas list, because we know the whole Orange Lantern thing, his whole thing is like, greed and selfishness and stuff like that. So he's doing everything for getting ready for Santa. So he leaves the cookies out. He bakes all the cookies. He's got his checklist. He does everything he needs to do. The stockings are hung over the chimney with care, like all that stuff. And he's like, yes, I have my list. Santa's going to bring me all my stuff.
Santa's going to bring me
He wakes up on Christmas morning. And he's like, yeah, my stuff. He goes downstairs. Nothing's there. He's like, but what? He goes, I did everything. The stockings were hung with care. I left out the cookies. But wait, he didn't drink the milk. He didn't eat the cookies. Nothing. So he's freaking out. He's like, I gotta freaking find Santa Claus. So he goes out on a mission to see what the heck's happening. He's like, why did Santa Claus not give me my presents? He's like, I was pretty good this year, all things considered.
All things considered.
Yeah, he's like, I let the cookies out, everything. So he goes on this mission. He freaking goes to the freaking North Pole. And he's the Green Lantern's there is like, yo, dude, what are you doing? He's like, I'm looking for Santa. He screwed me over. And he tells Larfleeze, he's like, Santa's not real, dude. And he's like, what? He's like, yeah, Santa's not real. He's like, what are you talking about? Santa's not real. And he explains the whole thing to him. He's like, Christmas isn't about gifts and all this stuff. It's just something fun, we do for children. But that's not what Christmas is about. And
That's not Christmas, buddy.
And he explains to them, he goes, every year I take all these presents and stuff like that, and I go around and I give them to kids and stuff like that. And he tells them, he basically shares with them the true meaning of Christmas. And by the end, Larfleeze learns the real meaning of Christmas. And it's a funny yet heartwarming story where it goes from like, Larfleeze is like, he believes in Santa and he's like, what's happening? I did everything right. And he comes to find out that like, and he's all excited about it because he's all about getting stuff and he's greedy and selfish. That's his thing. So he's like, this is the one day a year I'm going to get everything I've ever wanted because I've been good all year. And that's the rule for Christmas with Santa. But he finds out, it's not real. And he learns the true meaning of Christmas. And it ends with a really uplifting, note with him learning the true meaning of Christmas and stuff, which is like family and loved ones. And it's just, in true Jeff Johns fashion, as far as like story goes of like the message, it's probably the best message out of the three I picked personally. Obviously, A Christmas Carol,
sure.
But like that's like A Christmas Carol. You know what I mean? I feel like it doesn't count. It's like the definitive Christmas story.
A Christmas Carol, that's kind of the heart of the message. What is the true meaning of Christmas?
Yeah. But this was an original, not adapting the Christmas Carol story of true. Like what is the true meaning of Christmas, and it was funny. And it was like, it just warmed the heart at the end. It was like, oh, that's Larfleeze now learned what he's not being selfish on Christmas. Look at that.
Good old Larfleeze. He made it right in the end. That's a solid pick. I like it. Yeah. Do you have any honorable mentions?
I actually don't, Tim.
I will say there's one that I have not read.
Okay.
I'm just going to mention it because I want to read it. And I want to know if anybody has read it and if it's good or not. So you can tell us in the comments or tweet it to us or whatever. Is Claus and the Witch of Winter by Grant Morrison.
I have not read that one.
It was on Boom Studios. I saw it. It kind of reminds me of that Christmas movie that came out a few years ago. Well, actually, I think it was released at Easter.
Yeah.
The Guardians.
Okay.
Where Santa Claus is like, it's like that. The legend of Santa Claus more so, where he's just like this, a superhero essentially. And he wields a sword and the whole deal.
In true Zack Snyder fashion?
Yeah, it's like a mix of like Santa Claus meets The Witcher.
Okay.
So it's kind of like that, but it kind of has a dope concept and it's Grant Morrison. So I was like, well, that's interesting. But I've never read it. So if you've read it and if it's good, let us know because I'm interested. I might pick that up this year.
I actually, just thinking about it, I thought of an honorable mention. Spectacular Spider-Man 173.
Oh,
the creature stirring.
You're cheating.
Creature stirring.
Yeah, creature stirring.
But that's a great one just because, again, it's like, it ends on kind of on a down note, but a happy note where short and sweet. The premise is Doc Ock wants to be with Aunt May on Christmas Eve because that's the only woman that's ever been nice to him. So he wants to spend time with her and hopefully, have a nice moment for Christmas Eve. He finds out she's moved on. She's got a boyfriend. And rather than, like kill that boyfriend and get rid of him and be selfish like the villain that he normally is, he's like, no, I'm going to put her feelings before mine. I'm going to let her be happy, and I'm going to leave because I rather her have the merriest of Christmases than ruining it by, ruining her time with her loved one. So it's like good, but sad. It's like, oh, he likes her so much. He's willing to just let her be happy.
And I will note, this is a fitting honorable mention because this week to lead off on the main variant channel, our Christmas episodes, we actually are featuring Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 173. Spectacular Spider-Man 173, I'm sorry. And Batman Noel is our Christmas Eve episode.
Dun.
So you guys can be on the lookout for those as little Christmas treats on the main variant channel as well.
But I feel like the comic portion of this episode was easier to narrow down. Now we go into the really hard portion.
Yeah, this was very difficult.
Picking our 3 favorite Christmas movies. It was so hard, in fact, we took 3 off the board that we couldn't even use them.
Yeah.
We're like, we can't even pick them. So
because if we did, our list would be the exact same.
Yeah, they'd basically be identical, which is Elf.
Yep.
The first Home Alone.
That's right.
And
The Grinch.
And The Grinch. The live action The Grinch, right.
Yep.
Brain farted for a second. But
now I will say The Grinch, even though both of us, our entire families
love that freaking movie.
Love The Grinch. We're the Grinch. But The Grinch is a polarizing movie amongst Christmas fans.
So weird.
I did not know that until a few years ago.
Yeah, on like Rotten Tomatoes, it's got like it's rotten.
I just thought everybody loved that movie, but it turns out there's a whole group of people that actually hate that movie. They think it's terrible. And I am not in that category.
Max!
That is a must watch every year in our house. It's one of I think I fall into the camp of it's one of the best Christmas movies ever made.
Dude, it would have been in my top 3.
Most quotable.
For sure. I think it is the most quotable. But for me personally, I freaking quote that movie all year round. I quote it in February, let alone like Christmas time.
Yeah, it's one of our go-to movies that we quote pretty religiously.
Arris.
Never ends. So yeah, but that all three of those, just to have a interesting list, we had to take those off the board because somebody was going to pick some grouping of those three.
So no Elf, no freaking Home Alone, and no live action Grinch.
That's right.
Which is him because Elf too, man. That's another really quotable one too, though.
Which one?
The Elf.
Oh yeah,
it's like congratulations, the world's best cup of coffee.
It's like it's Will Ferrell playing an adult elf.
Hi, buddy.
It's that, and it's also written and directed by Jon Favreau,
dude.
So it's like,
the legend, the myth.
Come on. So yeah, those are must watch, but we're gonna put those to the side.
Before we move, what is your favorite quote from Elf? What would you say?
Oh my God,
the one that's sticking out to me.
That's like asking who's your favorite child.
There's so many, but the one that immediately comes to mind is the Narwhal. Hi, buddy. Hope you find your mom.
That's certainly one of the ones that always stands out. Oh man, I don't know. I think the when he runs into the coffee shop, you did it! Congratulations over the number one guy. That's one of my favorites.
Is there sugar and syrup? Oh, then yes, yes.
San Francisco. That's fun to say.
But anyway,
but I will. I know what it is.
What?
Not just before we move
your
on.
Quote?
Yep, okay. I know what it is. It's when he gets angry at the fake Santa.
Oh yes,
you sit on a throne of lies.
Yeah.
You smell like beef and cheese. Yeah, that is my favorite moment in the movie.
So good, so good. So anyway, no Home Alone, no Elf, and no live action.
That's
Grinch.
right. So I started the comics. You start the movies. What is the first movie on your list?
The first one I'm going to mention is The Santa Claus. The first one with Tim Allen. I mean,
That's
nostalgia is a big reason for this because I remember seeing this movie in theaters with both my parents. And then after the theater, we went to Subway, which back in the day, I don't know if they still have kids' meals, but back then they had kids' meals. And the toys they had were the Santa Claus toys.
Right.
And I actually got the elf with the jetpack, the elf with attitude, with the tinsel that cuts through things. I got a little figurine of him in my kids' meal. And yeah, it's a classic.
Yeah.
It got 3 movies. Obviously, the first one was by far the best. But I just love that movie. That's another really, really quotable one. And it's a must watch. It's one of the, I have a lot, but I feel like that's top 5, well, obviously top 3, but top 5 for my just family household in general. Like we'll probably watch The Santa Claus at least 5 times this Christmas season. Because it's one of those movies like you'll watch once, watch twice, but then it's just good in the background. It's like you're making cookies, you're doing whatever. It's just, just good to make the house merry, just noise in the background.
On top of it being fun, it's also got a lot of nostalgic pull from it. It's just one of those Christmas movies that was really popular when we were kids. It's well made. It's a fun movie. It's got some cheese in it, but what Christmas movie doesn't?
For sure. It's part of the appeal.
Yeah, it's part of the novelty of it. But yeah, it is definitely one of those that you can have. It makes the house, like if you're just doing Christmassy things, especially, it's one of those movies you can put on and it makes everything kind of feel warm. For lack of a better way of saying it.
The freaking part where he burns the turkey, where he's trying to make it, and then he ends up having to go to like Denny's.
Yeah, well, at least they've got apple pie. We did.
Yeah. So good. There's so many, the cup of cocoa. I always wanted that mug where the elf makes him the cocoa, and he's
if they release a replica of that,
I bet you they do. Because
I've never seen it.
I think it's like real pewter, or it's supposed to be something like that.
I'm a hound for stuff like that, and I've never seen it.
I don't know.
I would love it though.
I bet you can find it.
Somebody can find it. If anybody finds it, send it our way. You'll see it on set. I guarantee you that.
But what's your number? Well, what's going to kick off your Christmas movie list?
This was very tough. I grew up in a movie house. Okay, we watched movies. Is my family's thing. Okay, we have several family filmmakers that came out of our family. Like this, it's a huge part of our entire family. So Christmas is also favorite holiday. So Christmas movies is a long list of really good Christmas movies that I was very torn. So I had to break this down, and we actually talked about it. This actually wound up being whittled down by what is the most meaningful movie, because there's just too many that you'll play like in the background or that you like to watch even a couple of times. Elf being a good example. My wife is obsessed with Elf. She'll watch Elf about 57 times with my kids.
It's universally loved. Yeah, it's become a classic.
So it had to be whittled down by what is the most meaningful Christmas movie that has, I guess, that an emotional or a personal importance to you. So that was how I whittled it down. So for me, the number one is The Family Man with Nicolas Cage.
That's a solid movie. I watch that every year too. That's a solid movie.
It is.
It's one of Nicolas Cage. I would say it's Nicolas Cage's best movie.
I wouldn't argue with that. I would say so, and I think it's easily his most underrated film
for sure. Because people will go to The Rock, off the back.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, but it's a sleeper. This is a sleeper,
and it's not. I feel like it's a kind of a cult classic amongst Christmas movies a little bit. Brett Ratner directed it, and he was like obsessed with this movie. He had to make it, and he got.
It's a great story and message.
Yeah, and it has the story actually behind it being made is actually really interesting. But the movie itself, this movie, the reason that this movie is definitely has to be in my top 3 and is the first one I'm going to mention is because the first time I watched this movie was on my wife and I's honeymoon, and we just kind of casually put it on. And I kind of dismissed it. I didn't really I think I fell asleep. And that year, my brother bought it for me on DVD for Christmas because he said, this movie reminded me of you. So he just got it for me as a gift. And I was like, oh, thanks. And my wife knew, he's like, oh, he really didn't. We watched it. We didn't really like it. But every year after that, she started putting it on Christmas Eve. And so that just became an annual Christmas Eve tradition for me and my wife. And as the years went on and I became a dad and, you get older and you experience life more, and the message to that movie every year registered more.
Right.
It hit harder. I pulled more from it. It meant more to me. So now, 20 years into marriage, and watching this movie every year, that's one of my favorite traditions of Christmas, period, is Christmas Eve, sitting down with my wife after all the presents are done and we've done all the preparations.
Kids are in bed.
Yeah, everybody's asleep and it's just her and I, and just sit down and watch that movie. And it's just very meaningful for her and for me. So that had to be number 1 on my list.
That's a fantastic. Again, I watch it every single year as well. And it's like you said, it's one of those movies where I always liked, but now having 2 kids, I like it more and more because it's a message about a dad, and family, and what's more meaningful, having all the money in the world and nice cars, or having a family that loves you and all that stuff. So it's a great message.
Yeah, I mean, and it goes back to some of the comic stories we talked about, where some of the best stories are about what's really important, what's the meaning of Christmas, sort of thing, which is really just another way of saying what really matters in life. Right. And that's the people that you love and who love you back.
For sure.
Right. And that time with them. And this movie is about this, billionaire, Wall Street, venture capitalist who he has this, he runs into an angel essentially.
Don Cheadle.
Yeah. And he gets a glimpse at what life would have been like had he stayed with his college sweetheart. And then they built a family together in this little house in New Jersey, and he worked at his father-in-law's tire store and stuff like that. And at first he's miserable, and then he goes on to realize no, it's not about that. The money is meaningless if you're alone. And it's all these other things that might make life worth living. So again, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really, really good. But I kind of based the Santa Claus, I based it off too, because that's just again, I've watched that in theaters with my parents, stuff like that. So I had to whittle it down by a most meaningful thing. And my second one actually goes to that too, because it's actually a tradition with me and my wife. 4 Christmases.
Okay.
Now we actually, when we were dating, because I forget, that movie came out in the early 2000s.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I believe
so we were still just dating at the time, and we saw it in theaters. We saw it one of those years in theaters, and one of her favorite actors is Vince Vaughn. So off the bat, she just loved it, and Reese Witherspoon's really funny in it. But it's a hilarious movie, and it's just become a tradition where every year, we don't watch it on a specific day. It's not every Christmas Eve or anything like that. But every year, when the kids are asleep, it's me and her watch this movie together. And it also has a good message too. It's one of those movies where it's definitely a comedy. It's not as, much of a drama as The Family Man.
Right.
But this is a comedy that at the end has a good message where it's about,
it does.
Vince Vaughn and his girlfriend at the time, Vince Vaughn and his girlfriend, Reese Witherspoon, they're basically very successful. You know, they don't want kids. They don't want to be held down. They both make a lot of money, so they're always traveling. So for Christmas, they don't want to actually be with their family. They want to go to like Hawaii or like travel and stuff like that. But they get snowed in and they're forced to spend Christmas with their families. It's called 4 Christmases because both their parents are split up. So they have to go to his mom's, his dad's, her mom's, her dad's 4 Christmases. And they have to do it all in one day. And obviously, there's a lot of shenanigans because their family unit is just very like crazy. Where Vince Vaughn's dad's house is very like, you know, you got Jon Favreau who's like this.
This is the funniest part of the movie.
This big bro, like, you know, country boy and manly man, and he's growing his kids up to be that way. And you know, Vince Vaughn's character is like this pretty successful boy and stuff like that. So his kids like pick on him. And it's one of the funniest scenes in the movie where he's got like this 8-year-old that jumps on Vince Vaughn and starts beating him up. And he's like, Google me sometime. Look me up. Like, it's one of the best quotes.
It's so funny. The scene where he starts wrestling with Vince Vaughn and Vince Vaughn is just all he wants is for it to stop. Is easily my favorite part of that movie. It's so funny.
It's freaking great. Vince Vaughn like MMA moves him and is like thrusting his arm, and then when he gets up, he like throws $1 bill on him.
Oh, it's so funny. Jon Favreau is great in that one.
Dude, that whole movie is hilarious. The movie when they go to Vince Vaughn's mother's house and Favreau's there because that's his brother, right? So his wife is pregnant. So they're playing a game, and he's eating chicken wings, rubbing his pregnant wife's belly. Because he's just answering the freaking questions. Like, oh god, dude, it's just, you know, it's meaningful. It's one of those movies it's like me and my wife's movie, but it's also hilarious. Yep. So that's why it had to be on this list.
That is a very solid pick.
There's so many quotes in that movie that I can go on, but yeah,
that's a solid pick, and it's also a good reason to have it on the list too. So that leads, I guess, to my second must watch every year. This would probably be my number 2. Which is, it has a lot of similarity to my first, The Family Man. I guess that's not a coincidence. Is It's a Wonderful Life by Frank Capra. You know, of course,
another massively iconic Christmas film.
Yeah, you know, this is, everybody knows It's a Wonderful Life. If you haven't seen it, you're aware of it. You know of it. You've seen something about it.
It's referenced in A Christmas with the Joker, the Batman animated series episode.
Yes, that's right.
Like they want the whole thing, the whole point of the episode. Well, not the whole point, but Dick wants to show it to Bruce for the first time, and they have to chase the Joker, and then the episode ends with them finally watching it. Yeah, so it made it into Batman's world. Yeah,
which is, you know, it's huge when you have like iconic, you know, stories referencing you as an iconic story that tells the tale. But this is obviously, there's not a lot that has to be said about it, but similarly, it's about what's important in the end. For sure. That's the theme of the It's a Wonderful Life. You know, everybody knows the story of George Bailey. You know, in Bedford Falls, he helps run this small town bank, and he's up against Mr. Potter. You know,
the line I was like, "You want the moon?
Yeah,
throw a lasso around it, pull it down."
So many classic scenes. Donna Reed is great in it, and Mrs. Bailey. It's just really, really good all the way around. And of course, the end where, you know, he gets his second chance, and he comes, and the whole town comes to bail him out. I mean, it's just, I get all weepy every time.
Every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings.
I love one of my favorite quotes. Attaboy, Clarence. Yeah. Attaboy.
But tell me that you don't want ice cream at the beginning of that movie every time. Right? Like at the soda ice cream shop.
Every time you're like, why don't we have these soda shops anymore? That would be somebody needs to open one. Can we commission somebody?
Someone listening here is like, we got one of those in our town. Come on over.
Oh, that's probably, that's true. There are some towns around America that still have those, but I wish we had one close by because those are awesome.
That is a super solid pick. Super solid pick.
I love that movie.
But that brings me to my final one, and probably the most meaningful one because we watch it every Christmas Eve. And that is actually Jingle All the Way, which is funny. Yet another comedy movie, but. So that's this movie I grew up with my dad watching, and you know, he kind of is what got me into collecting and stuff like that. And the movie's about a dad trying to get his son a toy that he really wants for Christmas, but he waits till Christmas Eve to get it. Clearly, it's freaking sold out and all that stuff. And it came out around the time the Power Rangers were really big, hence the main character in the movie being Turbo Man, which is like a Power Ranger-esque character or superhero. But my dad actually was Arnold Schwarzenegger in the sense that Christmas that Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was really big. He would wait in Toys R Us lines early in the morning to get me like the Megazord and all the figures that came out.
That's
So
awesome.
it's like, it was kind of like a reflection of that, which I'm like, hey, my dad did that for me. He didn't wait till Christmas Eve. He actually got me this stuff like ahead of time. But it's just a really funny movie. It's super quotable.
Yeah.
Put that cookie down.
Put the cookie down.
Like all that stuff. Like it's just a really, really fun movie. And then, you know, the superhero element of it and the collecting element of it, it just hits close to home. But my wife knew that I loved that movie. And the first year we were married, she was like, no, don't watch it, don't watch it. I'm like, but I want to watch the movie. And she held off because she bought it for me on DVD.
Oh, okay.
And then we watched it Christmas Eve. So she started that tradition. She's like, because she knew I liked it. So she's like, yeah, I wanted to watch it Christmas Eve. And every year we'll watch it on Christmas Eve. So now this is going to be like the 10th year we're watching it on Christmas Eve.
That's
and now
great.
the last few years, you know, now that I have a 4-year-old stuff and a 1-year-old, I'm trying to get my 4-year-old to be like, yeah, Turbo Man, like it's a good movie, right? Me and your mom always watch it. I loved it. You like it, right?
She's like, I guess. Dad?
But this year's extra special because, you know, one of my good buddies hunted me down an actual replica of Turbo
That's
Man
right.
because Funko actually just
That's right.
released it as a Walmart exclusive. So
Yeah.
now I have an exact replica in the exact replica packaging of Turbo Man.
Yeah.
So it is a permanent Christmas decoration in my house now, and I'm very excited because I have a Turbo Man this year.
That was a very fitting addition to your collection.
Right.
Very
And what's
fitting.
funny is it's not even like, you know, part of my toy/statue collection. It's a Christmas decoration now.
Yeah.
Every year it's going to go out with the Christmas stuff because, you know, Jingle All the Way.
Yeah, that was really only a matter of time. I've known you a long, long time, and Jingle All the Way always comes up.
Dude,
Somewhere in conversation, the
it's-
quote from it or whatever.
It's a messed up world we're living in. It's a messed up world.
Sinbad is one of the most underrated
Dude.
classic funny men amongst comedians, and he's awesome in that.
The
movie.
whole rant where he first meets Arnold Schwarzenegger in line, waiting because they're both trying to get their kid to Turbo
and
Man.
he loses his mind.
And he loses his mind saying, you know what? You know this is the ploy, right? The corporation's getting into the kids' heads and they're putting subliminal messages in there. So then the working dad has to go and stand in line and try to make money. And then the kid feels bad, right? Because his dad couldn't get the toy. And then he grows up jacked up and he has to go to counseling and all this stuff. And he goes on that rant. Dude,
really
it's so
funny.
good. So
You know what that movie or that scene specifically, you know what it reminds me of is his stand-up. Have you ever seen Son of a Preacher Man?
Yes, I have.
Dude, that scene in particular reminds me of that stand-up special that he did, and that's a really
Because you
good
could tell he was going ad lib for
Oh,
good
yeah.
portions of that scene. But also, the movie was in the mid 90s. So it's also fun watching them go through the toy stores now. Because I'm like, I remember when those toys were on the shelves, like the animated X-Men stuff or the Ghost Rider toys and stuff. Because they do pants. Because the old movie is him trying to get a toy. So they're like
Yeah.
in toy business and stuff like that. Trying to get I said toy biz. What is it? KB Toys.
KB Toys,
KB
yeah.
Toys and Toys R Us and stuff. Trying to get the toys. I'm like, oh, I remember when those toys were on the shelves. So it's got that nostalgia too.
Toy Biz was another one.
Was that another toy store?
Oh yeah.
I know it's a toy company. I didn't know
Yeah,
it's a toy
toy
store.
company, and they had like they would do like little offshoots, setups around the holidays and stuff like that. And they would put up like little toys. I was little. We're talking about 80s.
Oh, okay, because I know that Toy Biz actually created Marvel Legends,
That's
which
right.
Hasbro brought out several years ago, but I did not know it was a store.
I wouldn't say it's a store.
Oh, it's
They would do like little, what do they call them? Pop-ups.
Oh, okay, kind of like what FAO Schwartz does now,
Yes.
where they do pop-ups in like
Exactly.
Targets and stuff. Okay,
Exactly.
that's cool.
That's still pretty fun. And the movie also features the late great Phil Hartman, who is
Dude.
amazing as the creepy neighbor.
Dude,
He's so he nobody did the creepy
Dude.
like I don't even know how to say like the creepy like a yuppie
where he's like,
as like Phil Hartman.
Ted, these cookies, put my cookie down.
So good.
Yeah, he was great.
As a guy who left us too
That's
soon.
another one of the great scenes where he's like, Turbo Man, I got Johnny's months ago. It's nestled safely under our tree. It's just so many good lines.
Oh, that's good. That is a good.
But that brings to your number one.
My last but not least, because that's a solid ad. But my last but not least has to be. I juggled several different things back and forth, but in the end, I had to land on A Muppet's Christmas Carol.
That's another one of my favorites.
I know that we're referencing A Christmas Carol a lot here, but
It's true.
but this particular movie, it mixed two of my favorite things. It mixed the Christmas Carol story with the Muppets. I, as you guys all know, who have been listening to this podcast for a long time, I am a lifelong Muppets Jim Henson fan. I just love what they do. I think it's just one of the more uniquely creative things in all of entertainment. is Jim Henson's work with the Muppets. And the just huge variety of different stories that they
As
told.
you're talking about it, all I hear in my head is, it's Marley and Marley. Whoa! It's like all that's going in my head.
Good. It's so good. But the Muppets mixed with Michael Caine,
dude,
the great Michael Caine playing as Ebenezer Scrooge, has a great score and soundtrack. With the Muppets singing all the different, with of course the classic, Kermit playing Bob Cratchit.
I was just gonna say,
going
Kermit
home, only one more sleep till Christmas.
There's only one more.
If you've ever heard that song, you cannot hear it and not sing it repeatedly.
It's a great Christmas Eve movie,
especially once you get to Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
After all, there's only one more sleep till Christmas. It's so good, and it's one of the movies we have to watch every year from the time I was a childhood, or from when I was a kid.
Are you a purist? Do you have to watch the original cut where you remember the original cut where they have the scene where Ebenezer Scrooge is singing? Okay.
Yeah,
they took that out in the modern version. I don't know why. What's the name of the song again? I'm blanking.
It's at the end.
No, it's in the middle of the movie where it's with his loved one, with the lady.
Oh, okay, yes. The one with now you're gonna make me forget. It's where he's saying goodbye to her. The love is gone.
The love
is gone. Yeah. It's one of those movies. We watched it in theaters when it came out.
Leave it to Christmas movies to get me singing on the podcast. People are probably like, "Shut up, Arris, your voice sucks."
Like, okay, let's tone it down, fellas.
It's a time to be merry, guys. Leave me alone. Right. I'm just being happy.
It's a time for love and cheer. It's like the elf. The best way to spend Christmas cheer is singing loud for all to hear.
That's another one of the best quotes from Elf for sure.
But yeah, we saw that movie in the theaters. And we have watched it every single Christmas.
Oh, Martha May. We're just going through the gamut of Christmas quotes now.
So good. Those three have to be on the list. But yeah, every year from the time I was a kid, when it came out, it's a must watch. Everybody in the family absolutely loves it. It actually became a multi-generational Christmas tradition on Christmas Eve. And we either watch that on Christmas Eve or the day before Christmas Eve. We'll watch it.
Yeah, it's a fantastic movie.
It's an absolute must watch, and it has a lot of meaning, of course, because of the Christmas Carol story and the Muppets. So
it's weird. I feel like I have so many Christmas traditions, especially for Christmas Eve, because on Christmas Eve, I watch, obviously, Jingle All the Way. Well, that one specific. So while we're on the topic, I'll break it down real quick. My household Christmas Eve tradition. So in the morning, we watch Jingle All the Way while we're eating Christmas Eve breakfast.
Right.
So that kicks off Christmas Eve, right? We're eating breakfast, which we usually do a big breakfast. We go all out and we watch Jingle All the Way. And then as we're working our way towards lunch and digesting and working towards turkey, we watch Christmas with the Joker from Batman Animated Series.
Yes.
And then we finish the night off with A Muppets Christmas Carol, because especially like we were saying, there's only one more sleep till Christmas.
Yeah.
That is, especially for having the kids, that is the most perfect way to put them to bed. In the morning, they get to open all their presents and have Christmas. So yeah, that's my Christmas Eve tradition, everyone. Now you got an inside peek at what the Quinones household does.
Our Christmas Eve in my house is very different than what it was for me growing up, because my wife's birthday is on Christmas Eve. So we usually, Christmas Eve is dedicated to her, and that's something that I go out of my way every year to make sure she doesn't, that she feels special.
She doesn't feel robbed.
Yeah, she just feels, and she doesn't care.
She's probably used to it.
Yeah, she doesn't care at all. She grew up with it. She's happy with whatever. She's just a really simple. She's not needy.
So the rest of the world is Christmas Eve, but like it's got to be weird, right?
Yeah.
But for her, it's her birthday.
Yeah.
And Christmas Eve.
we try and like spend it with her family, and she's Puerto Rican, so there's always Puerto Rican salsa playing throughout the house, and Hector Lavoe and Willie Colon, and there's music and food, and I make her. There's a meal that she loves. It's her favorite. It's called carne frita con mofongo, which is like it's like nobody cares. Okay, I get it. Nobody cares, but it's basically mashed plantains with fried pork.
Yeah.
So, and I make that for her every year, and so that's our Christmas Eve. But after all that's done, and we kind of do this like at the end of the night, we do like a shift.
Now it's Christmas,
and it goes okay.
So she gets half the day.
She gets the whole day, because we usually will make the shift like around like 10 o'clock at night. And then right before everybody starts,
about this.
Yeah, we got like a little tradition where it's like right at the end of the day, just before everybody starts going to bed, we do the first gift of Christmas. And everybody
Polar Express
style. We do the first gift of Christmas, and it's usually like an ornament, a Christmas ornament. We love collecting we have this Christmas tradition where everybody in the house
last year
gets a Christmas tree.
So much money.
I have a problem. I will admit it openly.
We're not going to get into it. We already talked about this last Christmas on the podcast. But I just want to briefly mention that you literally had to buy a second Christmas tree, working on a third, purely because of your ornament obsession. You can't stop buying ornaments. Not to put presents under it, not for decoration, just to be able to display all your ornaments.
It's true. I will say this year, I've reined it in. I recognize that I had a problem.
Bro goes into the Disney store and makes it rain. He's just freaking...
The Disney store is gone now. Ruined my doggone traditions. But yes, I
drop some mortgage on Christmas ornaments.
The first step to fixing a problem is acknowledging that it exists. So I acknowledge my addiction, and I have started on my way toward recovery and rehab.
We can't walk in the house anymore because we have 50 Christmas trees full of ornaments. Can you please stop buying them?
But honest to God, my wife is like, so we're going to have to start donating some of these at some point. And I'm like, how dare you?
That's a 1999 Hallmark special edition. You can't get that anymore. That's going for like 200 on the eBays.
This is going to get, without question, we have so many Christmas ornaments. One day in the far distant future, these are going to get divvied up amongst our kids. And they're all going to get like...
You kind of have to.
But to be fair, a lot of them are theirs. Most of them, because everybody has been getting one ornament every year. In some cases, 2 ornaments. Like,
is that going to be sad when they get they get
start
married,
taking theirs,
and they're like,
we're taking these now, Dad.
They don't get to take all of them. They don't get to take. They can take some of them, but some of them are meaningful to me and their mom, and so they're going to live in our house, and they can visit them when they come on Christmas.
I would love to be there when they're picking. No, not that one. No. No, you can.
They're like, Dad,
you can have that
Dad,
one.
Can we have any? Give me time. I need to sort through it. And really, I need to
give them gift cards to rebuy them on eBay at like marked up prices.
I'm like Ollivander. They're like to me what wands are to him.
No, it's like Home Alone Lost in New York, where Kevin gets to pick one out of the FAO Schwartz or the toy store. Yeah. And he's like, may I suggest one? May I suggest you pick the turtle doves?
Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, that's our tradition. That's how we kick off Christmas is the first gift, and it's usually ornaments that we exchange with each other or something that's small like that. But typically it's a new ornament that goes on the Christmas tree, and then we'll watch like a movie.
Yeah.
And one of this, it goes on my honorable mentions because it's really more for me than it is. That's why I didn't kind of go I love it, but it's like a smaller one, and it's the 1974 Twas the Night Before Christmas cartoon where
I never
it's
grew up
the
watching that one.
clockmaker with the mice. I just loved that movie when I was a kid, and to this day, it has so much nostalgia for me.
Right.
The songs from it are also really, really memorable. Christmas time is calling, Santa. It's really, I get it. It's cheesy. It's fine. I'm good. But so that one is I'll try and sneak that one in, but everybody watches it for me.
Yeah,
so we don't watch it every year.
I tried to watch it last year. I couldn't get into it. I feel like it's one of those ones, if you didn't grow up watching it, it's kind of a little harder to get into it because it doesn't have the nostalgia factor. It's just like, this is a little outdated.
For you, for sure. I remember because when I was little in the 80s, they would play it, on the main networks.
Okay.
It was like you got closer to Christmas. It was like Frosty, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Charlie Brown's Christmas Special, and 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we're talking about little, but that's one of the ones that stuck with me.
Yeah, some of my honorable mentions, just kind of blasting through them because I love a lot of Christmas movies. Christmas is by far my favorite holiday.
Yeah,
it's only rivaled by Halloween, but Christmas is just so much more so. It's so jolly, it's just fun. Especially now having kids, it makes it that much more fun. But I guess all the claymation stuff, right? So Santa Claus is coming to town.
Yeah.
Even Frosty, not claymation, but Frosty, still that Jack Frost.
Okay,
Dude,
yeah.
Jack Frost is
Yeah.
freaking great.
Yeah. Though, which one is the one with the Miser Brothers? I can never remember. Is that Santa Claus is coming to town?
No, that's The Year Without a Santa Claus.
Year Without a Santa Claus.
Yeah, that's a really good one. What is it? Year Without a Santa Claus is coming to town. Jack Frost. Those are probably my three favorite. Out of the
Rudolph
claymation
would
ones.
have to go
Rudolph
on
the
that
Red-Nosed
list.
Reindeer. Yeah. I don't know. Just all those are definitely on there. And then even Fred Claus is really, really good.
Fred Claus is good.
Another
one.
Vince Vaughn Christmas movie.
Yeah, that's a good one.
With Paul Giamatti as Santa Claus. Fantastic. Really funny. Good message as well.
You like that one that much though?
I love Fred Claus.
Really?
I
Wow.
really, really do.
It's good. I don't think I would put that one in my top 10.
A Christmas Story. I love A Christmas Story.
Yeah.
That's up. You'll Shoot Your Eye Out, obviously. Love that movie. And the list kind of goes on and on. There's just so many. I just referenced Lost in New York, the sequel to Home Alone. Those are the only two Home Alones that exist to me. Okay,
I agree with you.
Those are
100%.
the first two with Macaulay Culkin are the only two
Yes.
that exist. Okay, Disney Plus, this new one. All right.
Not to get specific,
Yeah.
but Disney Plus, you hearing?
I love you, Disney Plus. You're pumping out a lot of great Star Wars and Marvel stuff, but Home Alone, you made some decisions I don't know if I agree with.
You made some mistakes,
But yeah, I can go on. Oh, the original Grinch, the original Dr. Seuss
dude.
Grinch.
Yeah,
Like not movies, but
You're a
TV
mean
specials.
one.
Dude. Prep and Landing, I love
That's a
Prep
good one.
and Landing.
That's
All
a good
those, so many. I can go on and on.
you know
Arthur's
what?
Christmas.
You know what I love about Prep and Landing is because it's another Disney property. What isn't? But they in the Disney parks, if you go around Christmas time in Disney Hollywood Studios in Orlando,
Right.
they do this entire projection show on the Man's Chinese Theater.
Oh, we saw that
There-
about a year or two ago
Did you?
when we were there
Oh,
for
that's
Galaxy's
right.
Edge. They were playing it.
They do a really good job
They
with
do. It
that
was good.
using Prep and Landing, and it was a lot of fun.
Remember, we both had our lightsabers, but me, being the gigantic nerd that I
That's
am,
right.
had mine out. It was like, ha ha ha, it's Christmas. It's a
That's
light.
right. Man, I forgot we were there around Christmas time.
Yeah, they sent us there in December
That's
for Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah, they do a great job with that. And Prep and Landing is pretty fun. I made note of a couple of my top honorable mentions that I have to mention, in addition to 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, because that's one. But a couple of the others that I had to mention, there's two, because these were the other two that I was really, really struggling with not making it into the top three. And that is first the Polar Express,
That's a solid one.
Tom
It's a good movie.
Hanks, Robert Zemeckis, classic
Hot,
Christmas.
hot, hot. We
Yeah.
got it. Hot, hot, hot.
Dude.
We got it.
It is so
My
so
singing
good.
is going strong.
Yeah, man.
These Christmas movies.
Singing loud for all to hear. Just keep it going.
Hot chocolate.
But that one it's a must watch every year. But the other one that's more recent, it came out a couple of years ago on Netflix, is the animated movie Klaus.
I 110% agree. I
This
almost forgot to
one-
mention that. That
dude.
is amazing.
This one, I struggled really hard to not put this on my top three for one main reason. The story of this movie is so well told. For me, this is one of, even though it's really new, I consider this one of the new best Christmas movies ever made. In
Like-
terms of the storytelling, the animation is beautiful.
I hope it turns into like an Elf situation where Elf is a modern
Yeah.
movie too. It's been out for like a decade or so maybe, but it's already become like up there with like Home Alone,
Yeah.
A Christmas Story, you
Yeah.
know, all that stuff.
Well, for me also, I'm like, look, man, when you start getting into storytelling that's really, really well told, where they lay the characters out and they just kind of slowly unveil the message of a story, and they don't just cram it down your throat, but they allow you to go on that ride and to arrive at the intended destination feeling like you got there on your own, right? But they were really holding your hand the whole time. It's one of the best examples of that. And by the end, they tell such a great story about love and meaning and purpose.
It's a fantastic movie.
How much we need each other as humans and people.
Are you saying Christmas isn't about presents? Dude?
Yeah. It's not. But dude, love that movie. That goes into, in terms of like the story and the meaningfulness of the story, that goes into like the Family Man Christmas Carol range for me. Really, really great. So those two are absolute must mentions before we wrap up.
No, I 100% agree. And if you didn't bring it up, I would have forgot, and that would have been a big mistake.
It would be a catastrophe. Travesty.
But I think that wraps it up for our 3 favorite Christmas comics and movies.
That does.
The movies was so hard though, because even again,
Really
I'm like,
tough.
because we had to take Elf, Home Alone, and live action Grinch off the table.
Yeah, I think we landed safely.
I did.
I think we landed in a good place.
Yeah, we did. There's just so many. There's just so many, and we like them for different reasons too.
Mm-hmm. And many of the things that we mentioned, many of you have probably already watched.
Oh, for sure.
Leading up to Christmas week,
For sure.
But for those of you who maybe haven't, there's some good ads to your list for Christmas week.
Well, hopefully we gave you some reading recommendations
reading
and some movie
recommendations.
watches, because a lot of these movies are on Netflix and Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Jingle All the Way, 4K on Disney Plus.
Disney
Got
Plus.
added in November.
Yep.
So
Home Alone.
excited.
Same
Home
thing.
Alone,
Disney
yeah.
Plus.
Only the first 2 though, okay? Only the first 2.
Yeah. That's all we'll mention. That's all that survived.
But with that said, guys, Merry Christmas.
Yes, Merry
Happy
Christmas.
holidays.
Merry Christmas to all of you. Merry Christmas, Arris.
Merry Christmas, Tim.
I hope everybody, we will see you guys. You'll get one more episode for us to close out the year
Yes.
here on the podcast, and then there'll be a 1-week break after around the week of New Year.
Mhm.
And then we will be back here right after the new year with some fresh content. But so between the next one is going to be pre-recorded. So and so just know that in advance.
Exactly.
But from here out, we hope all of you have a very, very healthy and happy Christmas and holiday season, and eat lots of good things,
cookies,
and
eggnog.
whatever you like. But spend it with people you care about, and read some good stuff and watch some good stuff.
For sure. And we should have totally wore ugly Christmas sweaters. That
We
was a
should've.
missed opportunity.
Flat out.
But anyway, again,
Next year.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, guys, and we'll see you next time.